Good afternoon, 7th grade math students. This is Miss Smith again, and we are going to be talking about Lesson 2, Decimal Operations. Our essential question for the day is, how do I perform operations with decimals? First, we're going to start off with a decimal operation chant. It goes to the theme, we will rock you. I'll say it for you so that you can remember it for when we have it in class. It goes, do you know your decimals? Yes, we do. I said, do you know your decimals? Yes, we do. Add or subtract, line it up, line it up. Add or subtract, line it up, line it up. Multiply, count it out, count it out. Multiply, count it out, count it out. Division, step it out. Division, step it out. Now you know your decimals. Now you know your decimals. First, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting decimals. And if you remember in the song, it says add and subtract, line it up, line it up. So we're going to make sure that our decimal points are lined up together. So a hint here is to draw a line through the points to make sure that everything is lined up correctly. Let's do a couple of examples. First, I see that my problem is horizontal. And when I have to line things up, I need them on top of each other. So I'm going to rewrite this as 156.7 and then underneath it put plus 23.14. Now if I remember my chant, my decimals need to be right under each other and then everything else can be hanging off. So that if I were to draw a line straight through, it would go straight through both decimal points and land where my final decimal should be. Now, if you want to, you can add this filler here with a 0. In my example, I'm adding. So I'm going to add 4 plus 0 is 4. 7 plus 1 is 8. 6 plus 3 is 9. 5 plus 2 is 7. 1 and 0 gives me 1. So my final answer would be 179 and 84 hundredths. So if I were doing this problem, that's what I would do. Now for number 2, it is subtraction, but I do need to line my decimal points up, so I'm going to rewrite it vertically. So I have 57.123 minus 14.25. It's very important to write neatly so that everything lines up correctly. If I needed to, I could draw a line through, making sure it goes through my decimal points in a straight line, and then that tells me where my decimal will be at the very end. Now, my operation is subtraction. I'm going to fill in this empty space with a 0, and then I'm going to subtract like normal. 3 minus 0 is 3. I cannot take 5 from 2, so I have to borrow from the 1. That will give me 0 and make this a 12. So now 12 minus 5 is 7. I cannot take 2 from 0, so I need to go borrow from 7. That'll make it 6, and that'll make the 0 a 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. Then I have 6 minus 4, which is 2. And then 5 minus 1 is 4. So my answer is 42.873. Now it's your turn. I want you to pause the video and complete the examples. Next, we're going to talk about multiplying decimals. The most important thing here is to remember that you're going to multiply the numbers like normal first, forgetting that there's decimal places. Then you're going to move the decimal to the right, the exact number of place values and the numbers being multiplied. Let's take a look. For example, I have 45.68 times 3.5. Just like adding and subtracting, I want these lined up vertically. So I'm going to rewrite this as 45.68 times, now I'm going to put 3.5 over here and not line up my decimals. When I'm multiplying, you do not line up decimals. It's very important to remember that. Sometimes it just falls where they are lined up, but this time I'm just going to multiply like normal. 8 times 5 is 40. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 4 will give me 34. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 3 is 28. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22. Then I go to the next one, I put my 0 there. 3 times 8 is 24. I'm going to mark this 4 out and put my 2 here. 3 times 6 is 18, plus my 2 is 20. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Notice I've done everything the same I would with multiplying, is as if there were no decimals. Now is where my decimals are going to come into place. I'm going to add first. I have 0, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 0 is 8, 2 plus 7 is 9, 3 plus 2 is 5, and then 1. Now, I'm going to go back up to my problem. I notice that in this first number, 45.68, there are 2 decimal places here, the 6 and the 8. So I'm going to put a little 2 out to the side to remind myself that there were 2 decimal places there. In the second number, 3.5, there's only 1 decimal place, so I'm going to put a 1 out to the side. Now, in my final answer, I need to have 2 plus 1, which is 3 decimal places. So I need to move 3 spaces. Now, anytime you do not see a decimal, it's always hiding on the very last number. And I'm going to take this decimal and I'm going to move it 3 places to the left. So it's going to go right here. So that my answer will be 159.88. You can keep the 0 there, but really it's not needed, so it can fall off. Now it's your turn. I want you to pause the video and complete this problem. Now we're going to divide decimals. And when we're dividing decimals, we have a little story that we say. It's called the stranger story. This decimal outside of the division house represents a stranger. If you have a stranger and he takes 1 step forward, you inside here, inside your house, will take 1 step backwards. And then the stranger is now at my door and he starts knocking, so I'm going to jump straight upstairs to the roof. And then I'm going to divide like normal. So let's see this. In our example, we have 16.9 divided by 6.5. Well, before I get started, I need to remember that we're going to divide, and it is first come, first serve. Which means the very first number that I see gets to go inside the house first. So 16.9 was first, so they get to go inside. The 6.5, he has to wait outside. So that's how I set up the problem. Now let's remember the stranger story. Our stranger outside, he needs to take 1 step in order to get to the front door. Me, inside the house, I'm going to take as many steps as the stranger takes, and that was 1, and then I'm going to jump upstairs and call 911. Now, once I have my decimal in the correct spot, Then I'm going to divide like normal. So 65 does not go into 16, but it does go into 169. It'll go in 2 times. That'll give me 130. So I subtract. I get 6 minus 3 is 3. 9 minus 0 is 9. And this decimal means that I can add as many zeros as I need to on the end. So this 0 is going to come down. So now I want to see how many times 65 will go into 390. I do the math, and it'll go in 6 times. Notice how the 6 lines up with that last digit. And it goes in evenly. So it gives me 390. When I subtract, that gives me 0, which is what I'm looking for. So my answer is 2.6. Now it's your turn. I want you to pause the video and complete this problem. Congratulations on the end of lesson 2.